They were known as gentle giants, smart, graceful, and loved by millions. But behind the smiles and splashes, something much darker was happening. In rare and tragic moments, these powerful animals turned deadly. These stories are shocking, heartbreaking, and impossible to forget. What really caused these horrifying incidents? There is a haunting moment in history where the line between entertainment and danger vanished, where a routine day at a marine park turned into a chilling, fatal nightmare. It started like any other show. Music blared, the crowd cheered, and in a chlorinated tank just outside Victoria, British Columbia, 3 orcas performed flips and splashes to dazzle the audience. Among them was tilikum, a massive 22-foot male killer whale. Towering and powerful, yet seen by many as the gentle giant of the trio. But no one watching that day could have imagined what he was truly capable of. Kelty Byrne was 20, a bright, athletic marine biology student who loved animals. She had joined Sealand of the Pacific as a part-time worker, an opportunity to learn, earn a bit of money, and live her dream of working closely with the orcas she admired so deeply. She wasn't just a curious student. She was a national-level swimmer, confident in the water. But that confidence would mean nothing when faced with the brutal force of 3 agitated, psychologically fractured predators. Tilikum had already endured years of torment by then. Ripped from the wild at just 2 years old, he was separated from his family and shipped thousands of miles from the Icelandic waters to a confined metal pool in Canada. His days were a cycle of repetition: perform tricks, get food, return to a cramped steel module for the night. 14 hours a day, in darkness, with no stimulation, surrounded by walls and silence. And it wasn't just the isolation. Tilikum was kept with 2 older female orcas, Nootka and Haida, who routinely attacked him. They raked their teeth across his body, leaving bloody wounds. Bite marks and scratches weren't rare. They were normal. The trainers saw them, ignored them, and moved on. Punishment-based training ensured that if Tilikum didn't perform correctly, all the whales would be denied food. This bred tension, resentment, and rage. February 20th, 1991. The orca show had ended. The audience began to shuffle out. Kelty was doing what she always did, cleaning up floating toys from the. Her foot plunged into the water, and in a heartbeat she lost her balance and fell in. What followed was chaos. Before she could even lift herself out, something grabbed her leg, hard. It was Tilikum. Not in a show, not responding to commands. This wasn't part of the routine. He clamped down and pulled her deeper into the pool. People assumed it was a mistake. Maybe he thought it was part of a game. But what happened next destroyed that illusion. Instead of letting go, Tilikum dragged Kelty under, then released her, only to let the other 2 orcas join in. One by one they pushed her, bit her, rammed into her. To them she was a living, flailing object. Something new, something exciting. Kelty surfaced once, twice, gasping for air, reaching out. A lifebuoy was thrown. She tried to grab it, crying out in panic, but the whales blocked her. Each time she neared safety, they yanked her back into the depths. She screamed for help, screamed a name. Then she said the words that would be burned into the memories of everyone who heard them. "I don't want to die." But she was dying, and the whales knew it. Trainers and staff on the poolside rushed into action, but panic had already taken hold. Sealand wasn't prepared for this. They had no emergency procedure for an orca attack, no nets ready to deploy, no way to distract 3 massive whales in frenzy. And back then, trainers weren't even allowed to enter the water with the orcas. It was considered too risky. For 2 hours, Kelty's lifeless body remained in the pool, still being dragged around by the orcas. Her clothes were gone. Her body was marked with deep bruises and lacerations. They hadn't eaten her. They hadn't even attacked her like prey. What they had done was something worse. They played with her, over and over, until there was nothing left of her spirit or body. When Sealand staff finally managed to retrieve her body using a massive net, the silence that followed was as heavy as the grief. The trainers were in shock. Paramedics were speechless. And the orcas? They swam calmly, their game finally over. The autopsy confirmed what everyone already knew. Kelty had drowned. But the extent of her injuries told a more violent story. Multiple fractures, torn organs, and deep puncture wounds. It wasn't a quick death. It was painful, drawn out, and terrifying. It was also entirely preventable. The aftermath was swift. Sealand closed its doors permanently a year later. The backlash was immense. Animal rights groups, researchers, and the public demanded accountability. But rather than set the whales free, the park sold them. Tilikum was sent to SeaWorld Orlando. His new tank was larger, the shows were flashier, and the corporate machine was better at silencing controversy. A massive orca named Tilikum, the same whale involved in Kelty Burns' death nearly 2 decades earlier. At the edge of the pool stood Dawn Bronchot, SeaWorld's most beloved trainer. Athletic, vibrant, and deeply passionate about orcas, Dawn was more than just a performer. She had dreamed of this job since she was 9, trained rigorously, and built a special connection with the animals, especially Tilikum. That day, everything seemed routine. Dawn lay beside Tilikum, stroking his head in a familiar post-show ritual. Guests smiled, cameras clicked, children pointed in awe. Then, in an instant, the illusion shattered. Tilikum lunged. Some witnesses claimed he grabbed Dawn by her long ponytail. Others believed it was her arm. But within seconds, she was yanked off the platform and into the water. What unfolded next wasn't a performance. It was a brutal, drawn-out nightmare. Tilikum didn't let go. He thrashed her violently, pulled her deep underwater, then surfaced, only to drag her down again. Staff blew whistles, tossed nets, flung fish in desperate attempts to distract him. Nothing worked. For 45 agonizing minutes, Dawn's body was trapped in a horrifying underwater struggle. Witnesses reported the water turning red. The audience was ushered away. Inside, chaos turned to helplessness. Tilikum refused every command, every signal. This wasn't confusion. It was intentional. When Dawn's body was finally recovered, the extent of her injuries was devastating. She had died from drowning and blunt force trauma. Her arm was torn off. Her spine was broken. Her jaw shattered. Her ribs, sternum, and organs all suffered massive damage. SeaWorld called it a tragic accident. They blamed her ponytail. But insiders and former trainers knew better. Tilikum wasn't just a wild animal. He was a wild animal with a long history of trauma, years of confinement, punishment-based training, constant isolation, witnessing and enduring aggression. 3 lives now lost under one whale's name. And still, he had been used as the centerpiece of SeaWorld's most profitable shows. Dawn's death wasn't just a personal tragedy. It became a national reckoning. Investigations were launched. Lawsuits followed. OSHA cited SeaWorld for safety violations. And then, in 2013, the documentary Blackfish blew the story wide open. It showed the world what SeaWorld tried to hide: Tilikum's stolen youth, his suffering, his psychological deterioration. The backlash was swift. Attendance dropped. Celebrities cut ties. SeaWorld's image was tarnished beyond repair. In 2016, they announced the end of their orca breeding program. Water performances were phased out. Tilikum died the following year, in 2017, after 33 years in captivity. Dawn Bronchot loved orcas with all her heart. But even love can't undo the damage of confinement. Her death became the price paid for a spectacle we were never meant to create. At times, devotion becomes danger. For Alexis Martinez, that truth became a nightmare. He wasn't a rookie. He wasn't reckless. Alexis was a respected, experienced orca trainer at Loro Parque in Tenerife, Canary Islands, one of only 2 facilities in Europe to house orcas. From 2004 until the end of his life, Alexis worked tirelessly, training, caring for, and forming close bonds with the park's prized marine mammals. His role in the Orca Ocean Show wasn't just technical, it was central. And as Christmas approached in 2009, preparations for the year's most elaborate event were in full swing. But behind the precision of rehearsals and polished performances, Alexis sensed something was wrong. He had told his girlfriend, Estefania, that the behavior of one of the whales, Quito, a 14-year-old male orca weighing over 6,600 pounds, had changed. Quito had become distant, erratic, more aggressive, and Alexis, always calm, always confident, had begun to worry. December 24th, 2009. The morning began like any other. Alexis entered the pool with Quito for a swim session, while fellow trainer Brian Roich prepared the stage. There were other trainers nearby, watching the rehearsal unfold. Alexis planned to run through the stand-on spy hop, a complex maneuver where the trainer stands on the orca's head as it rises vertically out of the water. Quito had performed it before, but this time, something was off. On the first attempt, Quito surfaced crookedly, throwing Alexis off balance. He fell. No harm done, it seemed. On the second attempt, the same result. Alexis tumbled into the water. This wasn't a minor slip. Quito wasn't following through. He was resisting. Alexis didn't reward him. Instead, he used a method known as the least reinforcing scenario, LRS. Brief eye contact followed by a 3-second pause. It was designed to give the orca feedback. No punishment, no treat, just a neutral signal. The whale remained calm, so Alexis returned to the platform and tossed Quito a ball of ice as a small reward. They tried again. Quito reached the proper height, but twisted his body at the last second, causing Alexis to fall off once more. Then Quito dove too deep, forcing Alexis to abandon the move entirely. Still, Alexis stayed composed. At the surface, he signaled Quito again, giving another LRS. Quito responded with stillness, apparently cooperative. But beneath the surface, something had changed. Seconds later, as Alexis floated beside him, Quito struck. He rammed into Alexis with terrifying speed, slamming the trainer's body down to the bottom of the 12-meter pool. Then, he rose, only to return and repeat the assault. The trainers on deck began frantically slapping the water and banging buckets, emergency signals meant to draw the orca back. For half a minute, Quito ignored them. When he finally surfaced, he brought Alexis's limp body with him, balanced horrifyingly on his snout. Then, just as quickly, he dove again, dragging the trainer's body with him, as if unsure whether the game was over. Eventually, other trainers managed to coax Quito into a separate pool. Alexis's body sank to the bottom of the main tank. 2 colleagues dove in, pulled him to the surface, and immediately began CPR. He was unresponsive. Blood streamed from his mouth and nose. By the time paramedics arrived, Alexis Martinez was already gone.